Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining my presentation. My name is Asia Clarke, and I'm a multidisciplinary designer. And I'm really excited to be part of the Cultures Compass set of presentations today because I think that the arts is super, super important for people on a personal level to discover who they are and who they want to be, and then also for the cultural landscape of Toronto and Canada as a whole. Um, I have prepared a presentation for all of you. It's mainly about my artistic journey from starting my company, Wild Moon Jewelry, up until where I am now. I am currently in Accra, Ghana, having a fantastic time, just exploring other artistic avenues. I live between Toronto and Accra right now, so I'm really, really happy that I still get to be in touch with things that are happening in Toronto. And yeah, I hope that through my presentation, you'll learn A, more about me and what I do, and then B, we can have a discussion about people's personal artistic journeys, some roadblocks you might find along the way, and maybe some insights in my own experience can support some of you all to figure out your own paths also. So, I mean, I'm still growing, I'm still learning, but I do feel like I have something worthy of sharing. So, without further ado, I will like to start the video.
Hi, my name is Asia Clarke, and I'm really excited to be giving my presentation for Cultures Compass today for Reimagining the Arts and Culture Landscape. My presentation is titled Reflections on My Journey as a Pan-African Artist and Entrepreneur in Toronto and Accra. So I just wanted to highlight that this is a presentation on my experiences as an actively pro-Black woman entrepreneur. Through my business, Wild Moon Jewelry, I found ways to create the impact that I wish to have on the world. I started by asking myself the following questions. Meaning making. How can I use my art-based business to advance a pro-Black message and ideology? How can arts-based businesses and initiatives be a conduit for Pan-African social and economic development? Wayfinding. How can I find ways to balance my career goals with my artistic passions? How can I forge relationships to advance my goals? Growing and adapting. How can I transition between my different arts practices to take advantage of new opportunities? And how business as my life changes? So, a little history about me. I see myself as a change maker. I'm a multidisciplinary designer, a foresight strategist, and a research consultant. I'm Canadian born of Caribbean descent, hailing from Dominica, Barbados, and Trinidad. And I'm currently living between Toronto and Accra, Ghana. I really enjoy transforming hair, jewelry, and beauty and styling, but I also really enjoy being a researcher, a forecaster and strategist, and a freelance writer. I'm really passionate about re-envisioning futures and helping communities, clients, and brands envision and actualize their creativity. I use research as the foundation for my artistic practice as well as my. So, Wild Moon Jewelry. I founded my business in 2011, but I started making jewelry in 2010. This poster that you're seeing right here is part of the last campaign that I did, highlighting the jewelry that I was selling on my online store, which is called 10, The Endless Now, which commemorated 10 years of Wild Moon Jewelry as a creative business. Each of my prior collections were informed by my Pan-Africanist experience of resilience and innovation through art. So here are some examples of work that I've done, jewelry that I've made, and artistic concepts that I've come up with. Although I grew up in Toronto, I always knew I wanted to explore the world and find ways to make global impact. I studied a lot about international development when I was an undergrad at York University, and I ended up working with several Canadian NGOs in countries in the global south once I graduated from my undergrad. In 2013 and 14, I lived in Dominica, working at the Dominica Youth Business Trust. And then in 2015 and 16, I lived in Trinidad. In late 2016, I visited Ghana for the first time, and I felt really impacted by the beautiful African art, but also troubled by the amount of waste that was being exported from rich countries to Ghana and other developing nations. There were some companies doing something about it though. This picture was taken at a recycled glass bead factory in Accra. So, inspired by this, I decided to explore how recycled beads and other recycled materials could be used and marketed as a sustainable and recyclable resource for jewelry production. I started working with a women's group called the Obrapa Women's Group. And in this project, I discovered a lot of challenges that go along with international development. Some questions that I thought about after working in this project included: how can we engage equitably with local populations as we travel and engage in development projects? How does local culture restrict the possibilities for women's economic development? And what is the history of the medium that we are working with, the bead in specific? So I'm not sure if people are aware, but there are a lot for women's groups all across the world, all across Africa, India, and many parts of the global south. The bead is often a gender tool of development. A lot of women's groups are trying to organize themselves towards making jewelry for local and Western consumption. So this brings me to the Oprapa Women's Group's project, the Biakoye jewelry line that was developed. Through this project, we seek to discover how can arts-based initiatives be a conduit for social and economic development for vulnerable and marginalized populations. So the Obrapa Women's Group worked closely with ProLink Ghana, which was an organization that helped USAID to gather statistics on HIV and AIDS in very remote communities. So this empowerment program was meant to work with some of the women who were collecting data to be able to have something else to do on the side. Project ended. So the Obrapa Women's Group Empowerment Program had specialized workshops to improve the overall well-being, inspire self-sufficiency and capacity of, and increase the knowledge and entrepreneurship capacities of women in marginalized groups in Accra. So one of the major things that we did, aside from doing skills development, was doing training on jewelry techniques, as well as how to run a jewelry business with the with the goal of being able to sell some of these jewelries online. So through specific vocational skills training and product production, cultural excursions, and personal development workshops, the Obrapa Women's Group Empowerment Program aimed to offer complete support to the most vulnerable women in the greater Accra area. With the support of Canadian NGO Crossroads International and my colleague Sunshine Nanamanoa Duncan, this program played a key role in economic empowerment mandate for ProLink Ghana, supporting peer educators and former sex workers to strengthen their capacity to leverage new local and international economic opportunities. In the beginning of the Women's Empowerment Program, there were challenges to the dedication of the women to create a new product developments and to take initiative for selling their own jewelry. But some of this was attributed mainly to the fact that a lot of them had very low level of education. So it made it challenging for them to have the self-confidence, access the markets that actually had money to pay for these things, the jewelry that they were making. In Ghana, getting beaded jewelry is just so common. The market here is really, really saturated. But it would be unsustainable for us as Westerners to come in and set up an online store that if one of them weren't able to sustain on their own. So it's kind of like giving a man a fish instead of teaching a man to fish, for a lack of a better proverb. But this same ideology could be said for many of the NGOs doing work in Africa. Without constant external funding, the projects cannot be sustainable. And that's often due to the lack of educational, financial, or access to external markets. Another thing that was a barrier is that shipping to and from Ghana is very, very expensive. And whereas in Canada, we have many options for selling in online stores, here they only have Shopify. They don't have Squarespace. There's not opportunities for Etsy unless you register the business outside of the country. So the combination of all of these challenges led me to pursue my master's at OCAD University. I did the Strategic Foresight and Innovation Masters of Design course. My major research project was titled Grassroots Futures, Identifying Long-Term Sustainability Opportunities with Women's and Girls Empowerment Grassroots NGOs in Ghana. So this research seeks to discover what impact foresight methods combined with participatory action research workshops might have in uncovering issues that contribute to organizational and financial sustainability challenges for women and girls empowerment grassroots NGOs in developing countries. By specifically focusing on grassroots and NGOs mandated to empower African women and girls in the context of Ghana, this process was intended to identify and address present and potential future sustainability challenges. So I worked with ProLink Ghana and a couple other organizations to help them identify other streams of income, like exclusive of external funding from USAID, to help them sustain the projects that they were working on. Because if they weren't getting external funding, then there was just going to be no opportunities for the organizations to survive and to continue to support the women that were doing the research for USAID. And one of the major challenges was that if, in one area they had recorded that the number of HIV numbers were going down, then they would feel no need to continue that project office. And those project offices were offering healthcare in those communities. So the nurses that were there, they weren't just doing HIV testing, they were offering condoms, they're doing other STI testing. And then on the days where the nurse wasn't coming in, the women were doing beading projects there. But if the financial resources from USAID weren't there, then those project offices, those makeshift clinics, and also community spaces would get closed down. So I was working with ProLink Ghana and Dunk and WILDAF, which are 3 different organizations in Ghana, to try to see what could they do to support themselves to get out of like the funding trap that they have with external or like from different countries, whether it be Canada or the US or the UK, all of the funding that they were getting that was external. Obviously, however, this is really challenging and nuanced because a lot of the governments which should be doing these programs after the structural adjustment plans of the 1980s and 1990s had vastly underfunded their own social programs. So the problem is really multifaceted and challenging. But that's what this research was about. So if you're really interested in it, I'll drop a link and you can read the research. It's on OCAD's Open Repository of Research. So after finishing my master's, I went on to work with WUSC, which is the World University Service of Canada, as an economic development advisor on the WAGES project, which stands for West Africa Governance and Economic Sustainability in Extractive Areas. In this position, I provided leadership on the development of economic programs, including a Women and Youth Trade Program, Small Medium Enterprises Grant Program, and market linkages for small businesses and cooperatives. So most of these businesses were youth-led or women-led, and they were often in the agricultural space as opposed to the arts space, which was really different for me, but it also still used my skills in strategy and market linkage building and economic development. I facilitated trainings for entrepreneurs in the management of communications, marketing, and market linkages and sales functions of local businesses and cooperatives. But then the pandemic. So I ended up going back to Canada, and I spent 8 months of this 2-year contract in Canada working remotely and doing my jewelry business from Toronto. Um, but I always knew that I wanted to go back to Ghana. So in October 2020, I got back on the plane against the advice and will of some of my friends and family and returned to Ghana. Ghana was not as negatively impacted by the pandemic, and life continued somewhat more normal than in Toronto. Obviously, people were wearing masks for the most part, but and doing everything that I had to do to maintain public health. But the lockdowns in Ghana were nowhere near as severe, so it was really, really great for my mental health to continue to be living and working in Ghana. So after finishing this job contract, I felt that I needed a change in life. So I decided that I was going to not be putting out jewelry on my online store every year anymore. And I decided that I would only do bespoke and small collections. And I wanted to start exploring other art mediums. At the same time, I was still doing consulting work for the City of Toronto's Confronting Anti-Black Racism Unit and for the Provincial Roundtable on Employment PERT in Quebec. So I started doing creative hair projects and was becoming more recognized as a hair artist in the scene here in Accra. So I actually had been doing hair since high school. I used to braid hair in high school for I guess you can call that my first job because that's how I was first making money. But as I started doing it in Accra, like opportunities just opened up for me really, really easily. So here's examples of work that I've done in the past year, which includes for Vogue Netherlands, Burberry, and Dazed magazine. I was like really, really excited by getting these opportunities, and more really cool projects that I haven't been released yet are right about to come out, which I'm so, so happy about. And I'm really happy that in the last year, I've been able to adapt my artistic skills to go more into doing hair than to doing jewelry. And then expanding also on my consulting work by working with the City of Toronto, Confronting Anti-Black Racism Unit. So I feel really balanced in my career goals as far as being a consultant and a strategist on one hand, and then being a multidisciplinary artist and designer on the other hand. So I'm just, and on top of all of that, I'm about to have my first child. I'm pregnant, so I'm really excited about the next chapter in my life too. And I think a lot of women can probably identify with, if you have children, that a lot of people say that like maybe after you give birth, you kind of lose your own identity, and if you didn't do the things in life that you wanted to do before having a child, then maybe you might feel a little bit empty. But I don't think I'll feel that way because I've really taken the time to explore a lot of different opportunities for myself over the past couple of years. And I'm feeling really, really good about the work that I've done in the past and the stuff that's about to come out in the present. So this was Dede Mansro, shot in Ada in Ghana for Vogue Netherlands. This was a really, really awesome and dear story that I feel like really, really proud of this work. So I just wanted to highlight this, and this project and more projects are available, visible on my website, asiaclarke.com. And the last thing I want to talk about is this final project that I've been working on over the past couple of months with a good friend of mine named Jacqueline McNeely. I've started a podcast called Hot Ohima Hotline. And on this podcast, we discuss interpersonal relationships and dating between different Pan-African communities in Accra, Ghana. So the link for that is at the bottom there, and it's on Oroko Radio, which is a really cool grassroots radio station based between Berlin and Accra, Ghana. In conclusion, I've always tried to balance my arts practice with my other career goals, and at this point, I've managed to achieve it. But it required a lot of good networking, good communication skills, and courage to try paths that not many people were willing to take, or to, you know, return to Ghana in the middle of the pandemic by myself. It's like taking risks are really where the biggest rewards are. And I think I'm going to continue to live by that for the rest of my life. So thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to discussing any questions that anybody may have.
Well, thank you everyone for listening to my presentation. I feel every time I watch this, I was like, wow, did I do that? um, but yeah, I feel really good with my career as it is so far, and I'm really happy that I'm also expecting. And you know, during this pregnancy, I've also been able to do a lot of really cool art projects, and so I'm really excited about all the, like I said, all the things that are going to be coming out. Yeah, so if anybody has any questions or comments, yeah, children do bring joy. Even though I'm like having hot flashes and indigestion, I feel really, really, really happy and excited to become a mom. So seeing some of my cousins and my family members and some of my friends enter motherhood, and I'm really happy that I get to go on that journey too. Hey, Kabana, hey, cool. Thank you. I appreciate everybody. Thank you. Yeah. So I don't know if anybody has any questions or comments. I think I have a couple more minutes before my presentation time is up, but I'm not um, I'm not in a rush to run away. So yeah. Oh, first of all, I'm loving everybody's comments. Really, really happy, and thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And yeah, if anybody ever plans on coming to Ghana, it looks like I'll be here for a while. I'm gonna have my child here. I'm not gonna go back to Canada. I just don't feel like getting on a plane as pregnant as I am. So I have a third trimester is really real. So I'm looking forward to um, meeting my bundle of joy. Yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Asia. I thought I would just put on now for just kind of some closing remarks for the day. But if you do have any questions in the next 5-10 minutes or so, you can still put them in the chat. And if there are some, I can hand the floor back to Asia after that. But yeah, so thank you everyone who joined the first day of today's Cultures Compass conference. I thank for bearing with us and for being patient through the tech issues, especially earlier today. I hope you have all found something interesting and have gotten something interesting to take out of today and of all of the sessions and presentations and performances that we've had. So yes, thank you for joining, and thank you so much to all of the speakers and the artists who presented their work and who were able to provide some insights on all of our topics that we touched on today. In terms of the artists as well and the performances, all of our artists who are performing or presenting today and tomorrow, they have also responded to some interview questions that we posed to them. So if you're interested in seeing those, they are in the expo feature of the event, and then they're also posted on the CCBI's YouTube channel. So in terms of recordings, the recordings for today for all of the sessions will be made available soon. They should show up in the replay section. It sometimes takes a little bit longer for some than others, so most of them will be there tonight and ready for tomorrow, though I believe you'll be able to access them later, and they will all be posted on the website as well. So if you found anything interesting that you may like to share with other people that you know, then they will be made available, or you can go back and watch them yourself. Tomorrow we will be back for day 2 of Culture's Compass. So we will begin with opening remarks again from 10 to 10:15 tomorrow morning. We'll then transition into an opening discussion about arts and culture policy. We will then have a presentation, a dance performance by Acelia Arellano. We'll then have our panel discussion on spaces and places. We'll have a lunch break, and then we'll come back to talk about value in the arts and finish the day with some poetry by Shelley Grace and Pamela Mordecai. So please join us for that. And yeah, thank you. If there's any, I can see there's some questions that have just come up here. Pamela has actually asked one, so I'm just going to pull it up on screen, and then maybe if you'd like to answer that, Asia.
Yeah, I just saw the question. So Pamela was asking, did you have help with admin and operations as you did all these complex things? For the most part, no. I literally did, let's say, a solid 90% of it myself. So I have one younger sister who, and my mom, who helped me to do like production. So like, let's say if I made a collection and I had like, let's say 20 items in the collection, I was making not more than 30 or 40 of each one. So we were literally like a production line in my parents' basement. And then when it comes to like admin, I got a grant from OIC in 2017 that allowed me to hire an assistant. And that lasted for a year and a half. So, but by the time that year and a half was done is when I started going to Ghana. And then I started my master's. So I decided to not to scale back on my business in general when I started my master's. And luckily, like I haven't had, because I've learned how to use all these applications on my own, I managed. But I wonder how I'm going to do it now. Now that I'm about to have a kid, I don't know what it's going to look like. But I'm just open to evolving. And really, I leaned a lot on my family to help me do things. Yeah. Thanks for the question.
Fantastic. Okay, I don't see any other questions in the chat, and we are nearing 4 o'clock. So if everyone is happy for today, thank you so much again for joining. Thank you to Asia for your presentation, and to everybody who was able to join us today. We hope to see you tomorrow. Thank you all, and have a lovely evening.